And we're back. More Umineko. Welcome back, everyone. Episode 15. Back at it again. Let's just get right into it. I don't want to waste any time. Let's go. I finally noticed that the inside of the parlor had gone quiet again. Oops. What did I just do? Of course, I immediately mess up. There we go. Okay. Everyone had sunk into their favorite sofas, some deep in thought, some irritated, some acting depressed. Maria was once again enjoying the TV as if she'd never left it. It looked like she'd found the commercials more fun than the boring program, and she happily yelled ooh ooh and giggled. Of course she did. I stared at each person's appearance in turn. I'm kind of feeling like most of what we've done since the murders is kind of talk around. Um, we took a look at the circle. We've talked around a bit, especially on Ava. Maybe we're going to get into, taking a look at the crime scenes a bit. Taking another look. I know we wanted to lock them up because police needed, an uncontaminated crime scene. But if we're stuck here with a murderer, we got nothing else to do. Maybe take a look at the dining room one more time. I don't know if Battler could bring himself to go into the shed, but we'll see. We'll see what the next step is. If there isn't a 19th person, the culprit must be in this room. Yeah. Yeah. He said must be in this room, but yeah, Natsuhi, uh, Goda, and Cannon are all out of the room, right? Right now, Natsuhi's searching the mansion with the servants. Then we shouldn't say in this room. Okay, there you go. In this mansion is where the culprit has to be. One thing I was thinking between episodes, excuse me for a really quick tangent, um, the entire idea of those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. I was just thinking randomly that my idea before was like Ava and Hideyoshi are probably two of the ones remaining that have like the closest bond right now. And I was thinking a reason why they might be torn apart is because they're like on Ava obviously and Hideyoshi being, her right hand man, uh, are the two biggest suspects right now. The two people with the biggest to gain for the murders. So if people start to really suspect them and things get out of hand, that could be a reason to separate the two somehow. Just a random thought I had. After all, it's possible that Natsuhi was behind this, and we still can't deny that one of the servants might be the killer. Anyone could be guilty. Still, Natsuhi and the rest sure are taking their time. Yeah. Of course, it's not a small mansion, but isn't this taking a little too long to just walk around checking windows and doors? Just as I was thinking this, Aunt Natsuhi and the rest returned. Not one of them was missing. But our relief was short-lived. No, Kinzo? Everyone looked at Aunt Natsuhi in shock. The talk I'd had with Aunt Ava started to creep back in my mind. The possibility that the culprits had enough in numbers or weapons to kill all of those 6 at once. Oh, hello. Alright, we're taking things seriously now. Jeez. Yeah, a little startled. Alright. Alright, cool. After all, that thing in on Natsuhi's hand was a rifle. At a glance, its silhouette looked a lot like a hunting gun, but it was unusually short and kind of looked like a kid-sized weapon. However, it had a weightiness to it that made it clear it was no kid's toy.
それは金蔵さんの銃ですな。 ご存知でしたか？そうです。お父様の古いコレクションの中にあったことを思い出し、探し出してきました。
Smile and shotgun in hand. It's wonderful.
Sure.
Well, they said a rifle, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to see with the text box.
すっげえ。夏日おばさん、それ本物なんすか？
Hey, let me see.
え
Let me
え、
hold it.
実弾を発砲できますよ。昔お父様は野鳥を追い払うのに使ったりしていました。
Wild birds, huh?
あら懐かしい。どこから出てきたんやら。私がいくら触らせてって言っても指一本触れさせてくれなかったやつよ。
How much ammo does she have for it?
へえ、じいさまこんなの持ってたんですか？
What if it's not even loaded and she's just using it as like an intimidation tactic?
知らなかったですよ。
お父様は昔西部劇にどっぷり使ってたことがあってね。
That sounds about right.
あの世代はこういうライフル銃が大好きなのよ。
結構年季の入った銃のようですね。
I thought Winchesters had longer barrels than that.
でもこんな短い仕様の
Okay, yeah.
は初めて見ました。
ああ、思い出したわ、その銃。
That gun.
懐かしいな。昔好きやった映画のガンマンが派手にぶっ放しとったやつだわ。
Steam McQueen.
お父さんも渋いな。
親方様がだいぶ昔にアメリカより特別にお取り寄せになられたものです。ご覧の通り実銃ですので、どうかこの件はご内密にお願いいたします。
We're kind of separating. I mean, we kind of got like different factions. Like we got Natsuhi and the servant squad. We got Ava and Hideyoshi on their own side.
手に入れられたばかりの頃は大層気に入られておりまして。
The cousins all seem to be kind of forming a band, a little group.
撃つより薬莢を出す動作が面白いらしくて、裏の森でいろいろとカッコつけて遊んでおられたもんですよ。
しかし物騒ね。そんなものまで持ち出しちゃうのかしら。
万が一に備えてです。賊はおそらく一人ではないでしょう。しかも主人たちを6人も殺した恐ろしい相手です。私には主人に代わって皆さんを明日まで守る義務がありますので。
Okay. He just came back with the gun.
屋敷内の戸締まりは厳重に確認してきました。ですが万が一ということもあります。みんななるべくここに一緒にいた方がいいでしょう。
Yeah, no one wander around to do suspicious shit. Everyone
そうね。
hunker down here till the morning.
ここに全員が集まって相互監視をしている方が安心だわ。
それはどういう意味ですか、エヴァさん。
別に夏日姉さんの意見に賛成しただけよ。
It did kind of sound like she was just agreeing, but I guess with Ava, there's always that snarky passive aggressiveness. There was a stormy atmosphere between the two of them. If you think about who was the most suspicious from the inheritance problem standpoint, Aunt Ava was the obvious answer. However, there was no proof that Aunt Natsuhi was innocent. No, if you view Beatrice's letter as one of grandfather's complicated pranks, and think of this crime as just an extension of that, there's more than enough reason to suspect even grandfather. Also, Aunt Natsuhi thought the criminal was on the outside, but Aunt Ava thought the criminal was on the inside. In short, it was the question of whether or not a 19th person exists. Of course. That same question has been repeated endlessly since last night's dinner, with the letter from the witch who called herself Beatrice. So, was the culprit among us or not? And did the witch Beatrice exist or not? If you assume that something as stupid as a witch can't exist, you're basically saying that one of these relatives here, who share a common bloodline, is the culprit. I mean, not necessarily, but okay, for the sake of the game, sure. There could be someone else, outside the mansion who's not a supernatural witch who did these things, but with the game's logic, sure, okay. If that was too unpleasant, it'd be much more comfortable to simply accept the fairy tale-like character of the witch. A witch? A witch drawing a bizarre magic circle and offering human sacrifices. If I could accept that rubbish, I'd be able to trust all the people in this room. However, damn common sense got in the way. It kept repeating that witches don't exist. In that case, the culprit must be among us. In the middle of the seemingly endless rain, none of us could break the silence. Oh. How much time? Whoa. Okay, so 1 p.m., I guess? I think we were still in the morning before, so now we've moved to afternoon. Lunch ended and the servants removed the tableware and went to the kitchen. The wind and rain neither weakened nor strengthened, and the island remained cut off from the outside world. At first it seemed as though Natsuhi planned to stop anyone from taking a step outside the room. But when it came time to prepare lunch, she finally realized that this would be impossible. However, in order to avoid having anyone alone in the kitchen, she told the 3 servants to go together. Because of that, the servants were the first ones given the right to leave the stuffy parlor, which had been packed with 11 people. Since breakfast had immediately followed that terrible incident, preventing most of us from eating much, everyone tore into their lunches in silence.
私が洗いますから、源氏さんとカノン君は少し休んでいてくださいな。何か飲みます？
私は結構。カノンは？
僕も結構です。
お二人とも早朝から大変だったでしょう。
Everyone's been busy this
待ってし
morning.
まうのも仕方ないことです
Except
よ。
Maria, she's just been watching TV. The only noise was that of Kumasawa washing the dishes, which resounded throughout the kitchen. Genji and Kanon sat in some chairs and a short distance away, their eyes lightly closed. Just as Kumasawa had said, those two had probably built up a great deal of fatigue. But that didn't mean they could let it show in front of the relatives. Avoiding that was one of their virtues. After the silence had continued for some time, Kanon opened his mouth and muttered,
シャノン、どうして
Yeah.
あんなひどい死に方を。
死に方のことは忘れなさい。ただ、運がなかっただけだ。
Bad luck.
そう
From
で
the
すね。
roulette. Of course, in the end, they both understand that.
運がなかっただけです。
Sorry. Excuse me. So, they both fell silent once again. Kanon's expression was filled with grief.
シャノンちゃんが死んじゃったなんて。
Now, someone did point out the noises that are made when there's a tip. That wasn't one of them, right? No, that's the music. Okay. It did it again. It sounded... I went back and went to the timestamps of the whoever pointed out... thank you for doing that, by the way. But I went back to the timestamps, and, there were people talking during the noises, so it was a little hard to hear exactly what it was. Like, I could kind of hear it. but it was still a little difficult. So I'm going to keep an ear out for them from now on. I'm going to assume that it won't update again until someone else dies or we find Kinzo.
未だに信じられませんよ。本当にかわいそうに。もう会えないなんて嘘みたいですよ。
A lie.
もう一度あの子の笑顔が見たかったのに。
Huh. That's a very that's a very Kinzo-esque line right there. Something he said many a time about Beatrice. And you guys know I have my Chio suspicions, because she's been a little weird in some of her actions. And if Chio were somehow in on this, and there was like some resurrection coming, she might be literally saying it feels like a lie because it is a lie, and she thinks Shannon will be back. I don't know what's going on with Chio, but that was a strange line, I think. Kumasawa spoke with her back facing them. After all, Kumasawa hadn't seen Shannon's corpse, so she had no trouble mentioning Shannon's face. When Cannon heard those words, it reminded him again of how only half of Shannon's face had been left, and his grieving expression twisted even further.
どうしてベアトリーチェ様はシャノンを。生贄が欲しかったなら他にも大勢いただろうに。どうしてどうして。
ただ運が悪かっただけだ。
Just a bad hit on the roulette.
少しの運がたがえばシャノンの代わりにあそこに横たわっていたのは私だったのかもしれないし、お前だったのかもしれない。あるいは他の誰かだったのかもしれない。すべては運命だ。
源氏様、奥様の部屋の扉に血のような跡がついていたとおっしゃっていましたね。
Right. Something we didn't see, but I assume it just wasn't shown in the CG.
シャッターに書かれていたのと同じもので。
Okay, if I had made that connection before, I didn't remember it right. So, someone tried to get into Natsuhi's room. Whoever was doing the killings tried to get into Natsuhi's room. Does that mean she was originally one of the targets? She was supposed to be one of the 6. And they couldn't get to her? Maybe?
血のついた指でドアノブを引き抜こうとするかのような。
Yeah.
部屋。扉をかき破ろうとしたのか。そんな気味の悪い跡だった。
Scratched through.
ベアトリーチェ様が奥様の部屋を訪れて、そして扉を開こうとしたけれど開けなかった。
Why would the door stop her, though? Genji thought back to the time he had seen those traces of blood on the door to Natsuhi's room. Did any of the items that Natsuhi had stop Beatrice from getting in? Possibly what Jessica gave her from Maria? Or Natsuhi claimed she had her own kind of, what did they call them? Talismans? Something of her own that can ward off that kind of thing. I hope my memory's not just getting in the way. I don't recall if they'd shown it yet, but I don't think they did. With the substance sticking to the door around the doorknob and the marks of something scratching against the door, it had definitely appeared as though someone had tried to open the door, but couldn't. What's with the weird spacing?
どうして奥様は生贄を免れたんだ。もし奥様が選ばれてたなら、シャノンは死ななくて済んだのに。
Just then a loud, sharp noise came from in the hall. Both of them turned around surprised.
面白そうな話じゃねえか。
Ooh. Damn. Wow.
俺も混ぜてくれよ。
That's awkward. Before any of the servants realized it, Battler was standing in the doorway to the kitchen.
バトラ様、これは失礼いたしました。
Yeah, how about you explain yourself to Battler, huh? Genji-san and Kanen-kun stood up, surprised, and hastily bowed. But I didn't care about stuff like that. I was more concerned with continuing their discussion.
便所って言って抜けさせてもらったのさ。ずっとあの部屋に閉じ込められてると窒息しちまいそうだったからな。水でも飲ませてもらおうかと思ったら面白そうな話が聞こえてきたんでよ。
I'm surprised they aren't making people go to the bathroom in like pairs or whatever.
頭なんか下げなくていいぜ。今の話の続きを聞かせてくれよ。
今のは別に。
Yeah, explain, please. Not
ちょ
just
い
to
と前か
Battler,
ら
but for
話を
us.
聞かせてもらってるんだ。今さら隠すなよ。
Mm.
だから単刀直入に聞くさ。ベアトリーチェってのは何者だ。どうやらおとぎ話の魔女ってだけじゃなさそうだな。
Come on. Kanen-kun averted his gaze. It was obvious that he didn't want to talk about this, which only made me want to ask even more. While making an effort to smile, I grabbed the collar of his shirt. Oh boy.
昨べまでなら俺は無関係さ。だがな、今朝からは違う。親父たちを殺された時点で俺は立派な関係者だ。俺にもそのうさんくさそうな話を聞かせてもらう資格があるはずだぜ。
I glared into Kenan's eyes as he continued to avert his gaze in apparent pain. Since there was a big difference in our heights, Kenan had to stand on his toes and it looked like it hurt a bit.
バトラさん、
No, he's got a right
手
to
を
demand
離して
this
やってくださ
information.
いな。別にカノンさんは隠しているわけではないのです。
Well, he's not speaking up either.
じゃあ話してくれたっていいじゃねえか。仲間外れたら寂しいぜ。
When I tried to further twist up his collar, Genji-san cut between us and spoke. In his expression were faint traces that he'd made up his mind to do something. Apparently he had no intention of hiding it.
お話しすることはできます。ただバトラ様がお気を悪くなされるかもしれませんので、カノンは躊躇しているのです。
Okay.
躊躇なんて男らしくねえ
Hopefully they
ぜ。
tell the truth.
内緒にされる方が気持ち悪いさ。聞かせてくれよ。どうせ明日までできることはないんだ。多少はうさんくさい話の方が退屈も紛れるってもんだぜ。
Genji-san and Kanen-kun looked at each other, then nodded as though they'd decided to talk.
わかりました。何でもお聞きください。お話しします。
ああ。
Okay.
じゃあ聞くぜ。ベアトリーチェってのは一体何なんだ。
Oh,
俺が知ってる限りでは露見島の森に住まう魔女ってことになってる。森に入ると危ないからってんでばあ様あたりが作り出した脅し話だって聞いてる。違うのか。
Oops.
いえ、違いません。その通りです。ベアトリーチェ様は六軒島の森に住まわれる魔女であらせられます。
バトラ様、にわかには信じられないでしょうが、ベアトリーチェ様は存在するのです。親方様に莫大な黄金を授け、長いことおそばにお仕えした、
Okay. We know this.
実在する方なの。
はあ、よせやいよせやい。じい様の受け売りを言うのも給料のうちだってのか。
I laughed like it was a joke, but neither Genji-san nor Kanen-kun laughed. Not even Kumasawa Ba-chan, who was avoiding my eyes, flustered as she started washing the dishes. So unfortunately, I was the only one laughing. Painfully, bitterly.
なるほど。源氏さんが断るだけはあるぜ。こいつは確かに正気じゃ気を悪くする。つまり、ベアトリーチェっていう名の人物は実在するんだな。
はい。親方様がこの島にお屋敷を構える以前から、おそらく私よりも長くお仕えしているでしょう。
なんてこった。桐江さんの仮説は外れたな。じい様にベアトリーチェという名の腹心は実在したってわけだ。そいつは今この島にいるんだな。
はい、いらっしゃっていると思います。
曖昧な言い方だな。ってことは昨日今日そいつの顔を見たってわけじゃなさそうだな。
はい、大変申し上げがたいのですが、その
Canon-kun once again dropped his gaze, avoiding my eyes.
なんだよ、そこで切るなよ。
Yeah, they're being very slow rolling with the information here. They don't really want to talk, it
寸止め
seems.
みたいで気持ち悪いぜ。
I urged him on jokingly again. Freezing an inch before the blow? What? However, it looked like Cannon was still confused as to whether he should speak or not. Then Kumasawa Ba-chan whispered.
お顔を見ようにも、ベアトリーチェ様にはお姿がありませんから。
No form.
お姿がなんだって？
Okay.
ベアトリーチェ様にはお体がありません。
Does that mean she possesses people and so like Maria's alter personality has been Beatrice taking over?
ですからベアトリーチェ様がお望みにならない限り、私ども
Oh,
本
you
用では
can
お
see
姿
her
を見ることすら叶いません。
if she wishes it. Okay.
ベアトリーチェ様が人の姿をされていた頃の絵があの肖像画のものなのだとか。そのお姿を懐かしみ、よく肖像画の前に佇まれているそうな。
ベアトリーチェ様は時折輝く蝶の姿に身を変えられて現れることがあります。
Butterflies. Okay.
万一お屋敷の中でお見かけした場合には決してその後を追ってはならない決まりです。追えば不幸があると囁かれています。その禁を破り大怪我をして辞めた使用人も実際にいます。
おいおい、マジかよ。あんたら本気でそんな話をしているのかよ。
バトラス様、すでにベアトリーチェ様がお越しになっておられます。そのようなお言葉はよろしくないかと思われます。
It's begun.
ベアトリーチェ様はご自身を冒涜される方を好みません。
You gotta be polite.
その存在を疑えば必ずや不幸が降りかかるでしょう。
バトラさん、気持ちの悪いお話とお思いでしょ。ですがね、ベアトリーチェ様はいるんですよ。
います。それを疑われることをベアトリーチェ様はことのほか嫌われます。
Okay.
わかりませんか、バトラ様。ベアトリーチェ様は今すでにここ。
おいおい、よせよ。俺そういうのは弱いんだぜ。脅しっこなしにしろい。
He kept making Maria mad because he kept doubting her. Doubting that the witch was real. However, there was no trace of a joke in the eyes of the three servants. On the surface, I laughed and tried to look unconcerned, but I was quickly starting to sober up. Their eyes were also sobering up fast.
バトラさん、お願いですから、ベアトリーチェ様を冒涜することはおやめください。悪いことは申し上げません。
Kumasawa-chan, who was usually cheerful and would always tease people, now spoke with a totally serious face.
いや、いるって言われてもよ。俺には何も見えないぜ。今、俺の隣にいるとでも言うのかよ。冗談よせやい。
No. Oh, that's not good. For a split second there, when he said standing right next to me, I was looking over at Kumasawa, and I was like, not you, right? But now, oh boy, Maria, what's going on? Just then, that unnerving laugh suddenly filled the kitchen. When I turned around, Maria was standing there by the entrance. But her expression and the feeling about her, her presence, felt exactly the same as the servants.
波長の合う合わないは生まれつきだよ。
Wavelength.
バトラは生まれつき波長が合わないタイプなんだよ。
Wavelength, like to determine whether you can see the witch or not?
だから見えない。
Okay, you're not. Okay. You're still talking about Beatrice in third person. So you're not like possessed by her.
会えない。話せない。
Oh my god.
ベアトリーチェの一番嫌いなタイプだよ。
Oh. Just because mismatched wavelength at birth? She hates people like that the most? Maria laughed like it was funny, but it sounded extremely eerie. Hell yeah, it does. It was almost like she was laughing at me because I alone didn't understand.
ベアトリーチェのことが知りたい？ベアトリーチェはね、1000年の魔女なんだよ。あらゆる悪魔を刺激し、錬金術を極め、賢者の石を生み出し、莫大な黄金を生み出すことができる。
1,000 years old, demons at her command.
おじいさまは彼女と契約することで、後ろ宮家に莫大な富を築いたんだよ。
Mm-hmm.
昨日私がベアトリーチェの手紙を読んだでしょ？あれは本当なんだよ。ま、バトラに信じろと言っても無理な話だろうけど。六感が生まれつきさっぱりみたいだからね。
Sixth sense wavelength, huh?
なんだよそれ。魔女？悪魔？そんなの誰に聞いたんだよ。
Maria.
ベアトリーチェ本人に聞いたんだよ。
When did you talk to? This wasn't all just when she handed you an umbrella. Maria kept doing that unpleasant laugh. However, the servants who watched over this didn't even blink. She heard it from that witch in the portrait adorning the entrance hall. Maria kept on laughing in a weird voice, as though this was nothing more or less than the truth.
マリア、聞くだけ野暮だろうが、もう一回聞くぜ。昨日、マリアにあの手紙を渡したのは誰だ？
She's gonna call you
ベアトリーチェにもらったって 何度言えばわかるかな。わかんないよね。見えないんだもんね。
I mean, I get where Balor's coming from. If you can't see something, you know, there's nothing here yet that would point to someone who's never believed in the supernatural to suddenly start believing out of nowhere.
信じられないもんね。
Things like the circle and stuff could just be drawn by an insane person. Like, just then, Maria's laughter suddenly stopped.
バトラ、
Oh?
まだわかんない？ベアトリーチェ様がいるのが。
いるって。どこにさ。
だからベアトリーチェ様がここにいるのが。
In the mansion or on the island? That's right. Now that I think about it, I've been feeling for a while now that the servant's eyes haven't been pointed in quite the right direction. She's in the kitchen. So who has the wavelength and who doesn't? It seems like all the servants can see Beatrice. I'm sure Maria, well, obviously Maria can. I'd figured they were just staring absent-mindedly, but that wasn't the case. The four here, Genji-san, Kanan-kun, Kumasawa-san, and Maria, everyone except me, was looking at a spot right behind me. Holding my breath tightly, I slowly looked over my shoulder. Of course, there wasn't anyone there. I've known that the whole time. However, everyone in the room except me was focusing on that point, as if there was someone there.
ベアトリーチェは1000年を生きた偉大な黄金の魔女。
Rondo of the Golden Witch.
でも波長の合う人間にしか自分の姿を見せられないし、話しかけられない。
Does it have to do with your parents? Like, could it have something to do with Battler's mother as to why he can't see them, why his wavelength is wrong?
だからね、それがとても悲しいんだよ。だからバトラみたいな生まれつき魔法のセンスもかけらのない人に存在を否定されるのがものすごく嫌いなんだよ。バトラは幸運だよ。昨日私にお守りをもらっていてよかったね。それを身につけていなかったら今頃ベアトリーチェのどんな呪いが身に及んでいたか分かったものじゃない。
Right, and Natsuhi has one too. And Beatrice couldn't get in the door.
本当に幸運なんだよ、バトラは。
Ugh.
ああ、あのサソリのキーホルダーかよ。あれって安っぽい景品か何かだと思ってたんだが、ちとはご利益あったってことなのか？
それがなかったら今頃バトラがあの倉庫の中で顔面を砕かれて生贄にされていたんだよ。
Oh, you would have been a target too, huh?
幸運だったよ、バトラは。
Does that mean everyone who survived has the wavelength? And everyone who was killed doesn't have the wavelength and didn't have a charm? Well, that was very nice of you, Maria, to save Battler.
そうか。あれがなかったら、俺は今頃殺されてたってのか。
なんでバトラはベアトリーチェを信じないの？いるのに。
He needs some proof, I think.
今そこにほら。ね、信じる気になったでしょ？信じなよ。マリアにお守りをもらったことを感謝しながら。あれが なければバトラは今頃倉庫の中。代わりに誰か一人が助かっていたかもしれないね。
Yeah, I guess they only needed 6, but I bet all 6 of them in there don't have the wavelength. If they're the ones Beatrice hates most. Actually, if it's a roulette, I guess the wavelength thing wouldn't actually make a difference as to whether they were selected or not. Oh, here he comes. He's not going to believe anything. Right then, I burst into laughter. Playing witches had been pretty fun up until a second ago, but unfortunately that last one seemed to be too much for me to gloss over. Here we go.
じゃあ全然ダメだぜマリア。ってことなら悪いが、全然ダメだ。
When Maria saw me suddenly start laughing, she stopped. Even though she didn't understand what I was laughing at, she realized that it wouldn't be pleasant for her.
お前が傷つくだろうと思ったから、俺黙ってたけどよ。お前にもらったお守りよ。
Oh.
ポケットに入れたつもりだったんだけどよ。どっかに落っことしちまったんだぜ。だから俺が今この瞬間に無事なのはお守りのおかげでもねえし。なら魔女様の呪いがあって当然なのに、今この瞬間もピンピンしてる。
Damn. Get wrecked.
悪いが、俺は自分の目で見たものしか信じねえ。第6巻波長魔法のセンス悪いが俺はそういう眉唾なもんは一切信じねえぜ。クラスの女が霊感がいいの悪いのって言い出すのを聞いてると虫唾が走るのさ。あんたらがいくらじい様に給料もらってるか知らねえが、そう簡単にはいかねえってことをよく肝に銘じておきやがるってんだ。
バトラ様。
カノン君たちが信じるのは自由だぜ。
I guess he doesn't think it's a prank. He thinks they're all just brainwashed by Kinzo and something cult-like.
だが、俺が信じるかどうかは常に俺が。悪いがこの目で見るまでベアトリーチェなんてうさんくさいものの存在を信じるわけにはいかないぜ。
I spoke forcefully and sharply. Then Maria started cackling again.
ならそれでいいんじゃない？いずれお前のような波長が全然合わない人の目にもベアトリーチェは見えるようになる。
Eventually.
もうじき蘇るんだよ。
She'll revive at the end. Like... Ninth Twilight. But then no one's alive anyway, so how are you gonna see her if she revives?
ベアトリーチェはね、そうしたら一緒にいっぱいお話をしたり遊んだりしようって約束してるんだよ。疑う必要も無理に信じる必要も全くない。現れるんだよ、もうじきね。
Oh my. Okay. Let's see, 45-ish minutes. Let's stop there. And I will switch to recording another episode to keep the sync in. All right, guys. Interesting. I mean, we still have no confirmation about anything. Like, Battler's reaction is the most sensical if you think about it from like a realistic point of view. There's no reason why he should be like, oh, really? Witches exist? I had no idea. Like, anyone would look at this situation if you were in it real life and, assume there's just a real murderer doing crazy shit like drawing circles, and your little cousin named Maria is bipolar and has a different personality and is like really freaky, and Kinzo has brainwashed all the servants into believing his crazy messed up fantasy stuff. Battler's gonna need to see some hard proof, some real supernatural shit in front of his eyes if he's going to ever believe in any of the Beatrice stuff. And even if she did show up in front of his eyes, he'd be like, she would have to do something magical. You can't just have a person show up and say, I'm Beatrice the witch. And he'll be like, oh, witches do exist. He'll assume it's someone else just claiming they're a witch. The question is, how long do we go before Battler really gets that confirmation? I don't know. Battler didn't ask. When he came in the kitchen, all he asked about was, who is Beatrice? Even though he walked in and the moment he showed himself was when Cannon was sitting there saying oh, if only Beatrice had gotten through the door, she would have murdered Natsuhi, and then Shannon would still be alive. He didn't question any of that. They're talking like they know about the murders and they know who got murdered and why, and he didn't question that. That makes them big red flags to be murderers themselves. If he thinks they're acting cultish and they're talking about who got murdered and who didn't get murdered and how they could have switched things up, I don't know how Battler just walked out of that room without questioning any of that shit. Oh well. We'll get there, I'm sure. We'll get there. Oh. Okay. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in episode 16. Bye.